You're listening to Anywhere But Hollywood with Adam Campbell, empowering the independent filmmaker.
I really enjoyed this conversation with James Burgess Cox, who just completed successfully completed a Kickstarter campaign for his film Control-Alt-Delete, which he describes as a Crichton-esque science fiction thriller about technology and artificial intelligence. He's had a very busy month or two here because in addition to the successful completion of his Kickstarter campaign, he just had a baby, which proved useful in the campaign in its own way. Here it is, my interview with James Burgess Cox. Obviously, congratulations are in order for their Kickstarter campaign, but beyond that, looking through your Facebook posts, you just had a baby.
Yes, actually, day one of our Kickstarter campaign, I became a dad for the first time in my life.
You've had an awesome couple of months.
It has been awesome. In fact, I just realized today was the first weekend that I've had where I didn't have a Kickstarter and a new baby in my life all at the same time.
Does that feel a little weird?
Yeah. It's a weird feeling not having constant heart palpitations and constantly looking at my phone. Oh yeah, and taking pictures of my baby.
Wow. I mean, it must just be it must be just like a delirium the last month or two, right? I mean, just it's
been a race. Every Kickstarter is.
So yeah, that's actually one question I wanted to ask you. Is this your first one?
Oh yeah, no, first baby and Kickstarter.
First for both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of the best kind.
It's all going to be a blur when you look back on this couple of months. I'm sure of it. I'm sure it already is.
What?
A blur. Yeah, a blur. A what? A what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your project, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. Yeah. My name's James Cox. I went to college at Chapman University, Dodge College of Film Media Arts. That's where I studied film, and I have made a couple of short films. Probably the most notable one was Gray Matter, based on a Stephen King short story that I got the rights to through the Dollar Baby Project.
Right.
Which I don't know if you want to know more about that, but that's a
well. We're gonna have you back when we do our Dollar Baby roundtable. We'll be able to get into that in depth.
Awesome. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
That's a teaser, folks, for next time. But yeah, so I mean that was kind of the not that I'm on the map or anything, but that short film kind of at least got me a little bit of attention. It was really cool. Definitely encouraged me to take on my latest, which is a feature, Control-Alt-Delete, which was the project in question for funding for Kickstarter. So.
So what was
that's a lot.
What was the genesis? What was the genesis of the project? I mean, maybe you want to talk, give a pitch for it first, so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So Control-Alt-Delete is kind of been gestating for a while. I've always been a writer, and it's kind of like one of those ideas. It's always been in there. It's like, the idea, I think it kind of came together from both. I think the topical issues of the day, having to do with information privacy and surveillance state type stuff, and the ideas of artificial intelligence, giving birth to, something that's sentient and has its own agency, and, kind of the whole Frankenstein, type Promethean legend, plays into that. And it's kind of always been a part of science fiction from day one, Frankenstein. Right. That book by Mary Shelley was really the first science fiction book, at least by a lot of historians' accounts. So, I feel like that's kind of always been there. It's been something I've wanted to do, and this was a story. I grew up in Silicon Valley, so I've kind of always been aware of, growing up. Particularly, I was born in 1984, so people do your math. That's that's kind of how old I am, but. Computers have always been there, and I feel like as a part of life, I feel like I maybe got a little bit of in relation to the rest of the country. I think I got to see kind of the development of that stuff early on, maybe a little bit before the rest of the country kind of got hit by the wave of ooh, got to buy this new product.
Right.
Oh wait, it's already obsolete. Oh no,
Right.
And that's kind of the impetus behind a lot of Control Alt Delete as well. Is like there's this weird, relationship that we have with our technology now, where we buy something really fancy and we're like, ooh, isn't it cool? Oh wait, Apple just released this new thing. Oh no,
Yeah,
I need to
right.
buy a new one.
I know. Every year.
Every year, and I think that there's like a dopamine fix that we're getting in our brains from this accelerating technology that may not be good. I don't know.
That's a really interesting
has
premise,
iPhone, of course,
actually.
but,
That's a really interesting premise.
well, I just feel like it's all about accelerating progress, and I'm a big fan of progress. I love progress. I want to live in the Jetsons universe with flying cars and robots that will do our bidding. But I also love the idea of like, well, wait, what if the robots don't want to do our bidding?
Right.
And it becomes this topic, Terminator universe where we're all fighting over a loaf of bread while the robots are marching down on our houses. Anyway, that's.
Well, how would you describe the tone of the film? Would you say would you compare it to something like Primer or something more like Terminator?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm all over the map. So the story of Control Alt Delete is very much like Primer in the sense that it's a very small story with big ideas and big implications. It's about these guys that work in a data center. What's that? Well, all of our data, our Facebook, our internet, everything has to be saved somewhere, right? It lives somewhere. Well, where it lives is at a data center, and these are basically big warehouses full of computer servers that are running 24/7, and there's guys that have to babysit essentially those machines all the time, make sure that they're they have enough power consumption, they have the right temperature, the right humidity, and these are the guys that kind of inhabit my story. They're
So is this going to be basically like a single location film?
Exactly. Yeah, it takes place over one night,
Mm-hmm.
and this happens to be the most horrific night possible, where a sentient AI runs amok and turns their place of work, this data center, into a death trap.
Wow.
So it's it's very high concept, very I grew up on movies by Spielberg and stuff, so
Sure.
I just love the idea of man's hubris, coming home to roost, and things going all awry, and it's going to be a lot of.
I think in your video you said something to the you pointed out that there have been very few recent movies that deal with AI in contemporary terms. And
Exactly.
it's true.
Well,
You're absolutely right.
yeah.
You would think that would be a more common thing, especially since it's so topical. But I mean, the things that come to mind obviously are AI, the movie,
Right.
2001 from 1968, right? And then
Yep.
or I think like the Colossus, the Forbin Project Colossus from the 70s.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
but there's so
That's a great
few
one.
that actually address that. And the other one I was thinking about too was I read back in the 80s. I read David Gerald's book When Harley Was One. Or 2.0, which is another good, artificial intelligence novel, which is
I gotta check that out.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
it's
heard
really
of
good, really good
Oh.
book. I'm not even sure it's still in print, but he actually rewrote it in the 80s because he had originally written it in the 60s, because technology had changed so much by the 80s, so he had to rewrite it. And now he's way overdue for another update, in my opinion. But it's a very good book.
Let's get him to work. Somebody get him on the phone.
Absolutely.
We gotta say, hey,
Absolutely.
dude,
But yeah, you're
Moore's
right.
Law
They're
is
just
totally antiquated, and antiquated now. We need to,
Absolutely.
we can fit so many more microprocessors. Your book's out of date now.
That's right. That's exactly right. But you're right. It does seem like that's a strangely lacking type of story right now in film.
Well, for me, it's always been these distant dystopian futures where the machines have risen up. In the Matrix, we're all living inside of a virtual universe, but really we're in the deep future where there's flying machines and everything's horrible,
Right,
and
right.
polluted. I just find everywhere I look in the news, there's little bits of information that seem to point towards, hey, this is starting to become more and more possible. Now, is it going to be HAL 9000? I don't think so. I think our conception of what artificial intelligence is needs an update as well, because artificial intelligence is not going to be human intelligence. It's not going to be something personable that we can relate with. It's going to be something alien. And a lot of my thinking on this topic really has, I can give a plug for James Barrett. He wrote an awesome book that I highly recommend to anyone interested in this topic. It's called Our Last Invention, or Our Final Invention, sorry. Got to get the title right. James Barrett, Our Final Invention. And it talks about, all the, since the beginning of computers, people have been theorizing about, what a artificial intelligence would be. And, as our thinking has evolved on the subject, it really starts to look more like what we already have, which is, think about high-frequency trade algorithms. You familiar with the subject?
Oh, you mean in stock trading?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I did a little disastrous day trading in the early 2000s, but that's a story for another day.
You know more about the subject than I do. That's fantastic.
Disastrous.
No, let's get into it. So, so you're familiar with what happened in 2010 then, right? They called
that glitch, that one-day crash that nobody could put their finger on what exactly happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The cause of that, an artificial intelligence run amok. Jeez. It was reacting to a trader who, I believe it was a junior trader at the time, who he made a mistake. He made a human mistake. He started, panicking, and he sold a bunch of trades all at once. And what it did is it caused a cascading effect, basically a positive feedback loop that created a lot of these high-frequency trade algorithms to go, oh, let's dump all our stocks. So that's what they did.
That's amazing.
And you can imagine if that many stocks, it just takes one to trigger the next to trigger the next, and it's a chain reaction where, these algorithms are, without the proper programming to tell them not to, if they see that kind of pattern, they react to it. It's just what they do. They don't think about it. They're not aware of it. They're not sentient beings going, you know what, let's take down these humans,
Right. And actually, it sounds like it sounds like a disaster could potentially strike even without sentience. You don't even need
Well, yeah, and
self-consciousness.
Our AI has a personality of kind, in the sense that it's designed in a certain way, and that it's designed to relate to humans. But at its essence, it is not HAL 9000. It's not the kind of the artificial intelligence that we learn about. It's not, it's not what's the guy from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? We got the intelligence of the size of the planet, and they have the opening doors.
I can't remember his name.
Miserable machine, whatever his name was.
Yeah. The robot, the depressed robot.
somebody out there is screaming at their iPod or whatever, going, "Dude, it's totally Marvin the Paranoid Android," or something.
Right? Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, I get kudos. I remember. So that's, my thinking on this has really been kind of like, well, let's change the paradigm a bit. Let's think about it in today's terms and what's realistic. And that really was, kind of like, besides getting to tell a story about characters I don't think a lot of people think about or get to know, which is these guys who basically are babysitters for machines.
These guys who sit in a hole in the ground all their lives, right?
Exactly. These things run 24/7. So that means there's a night shift, there's a day shift, there's a whole infrastructure built around these things.
So is this going to be a one actor, like a lone? Yeah, I know you got that guy from. I should bring up the page here. But you're
talking about Blake Robbins?
Yeah. So is he going to be the only actor in the movie?
No, it's actually kind of an ensemble. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. Is it's about him and one of his employees who kind of is not a great employee. So there's a little bit of tension there. But they're also kind of friends at the same time. It's like, you ever work with somebody and you would love to have drinks with them, you love to share stories with them, you love to goof off with them, but they just are kind of. You can bleep that out. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That's kind of the kind of the relationship here between these guys. And
so what size cast are you talking then?
It's about 8 people in total.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically you have these guys working there, and then you have these hacktivists that show up and are trying to steal some of the server equipment for their own means. They're information liberators. They're guys who are altruistically trying to get to information that is being hidden, by the government, by corporations. They're these guys who are very, they're idealistic in a sense, but their means are terrible. They're, willing to hold people hostage, and it's, it's kind of like terroristic like activity. I mean, they're, in the way that movies do it. You know, they're definitely, there are these people who are trying to, you know, let us know what's going on out there, you know, kind of like the Edward Snowdens of the world.
Right.
But, you know, maybe the consequences are not quite on their mind when they're doing it.
So it makes up a very topical thing that you're doing here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and they're very educated, I mean, they're young,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also like, you know, these are engineers. They're one of them is a telecommunications expert, and it's kind of like you get this crack team of, you know, hacktivists who break into this data center
Mm-hmm.
on the night when they get their delivery of this AI machine, and that's when, you know, it's basically just a perfect cocktail of disaster, because the AI is you know, reacts to them trying to crack into it, and this cascades into more problems, and
a little like
anyway.
The setup for Jurassic Park with every little thing going wrong at the same time.
You know, that had to be there in my mind when I'm coming up with this.
Well, I mean, I'm not implying any kind of you know, disingenuousness.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm just saying it's sort
perfect,
of a template, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's the perfect template.
Yeah.
I love that movie, and I love how it plays out. And it's basically every time they try to make things better, they make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of stories really appeal to me. I think another movie that does it similarly, but on a much lower budget, is Return of the Living Dead.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
My favorite zombie
One
movie.
of my favorite. It's definitely my favorite zombie movie of all. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
yeah.
we can talk here fair about that for sure. Because, I don't know if you knew, but Alan Troutman, who plays Tarman, is in Gray Matter.
Oh no, I didn't realize, and I haven't had a chance to see it because I can only find the trailer. I'm assuming there are some restrictions as to where you can exhibit it.
Yeah, that's part of the deal with Stephen King, is that you can't put it openly online, and the reason for that is because you can't monetize the film.
Right.
And the way the internet works, you know, it's like everything's ad backed, and anyway, it's a long, boring, convoluted reasoning for.
We can get into that one next time too. But actually, here's what I want to ask you about. Why did your Kickstarter campaign succeed? I know that's a weird question, and I mean, obviously it's a great idea, but so many don't. And I mean, what do you attribute the success of this campaign?
I think it was. We were never safe. Let me put it that way. It was one of those things where, all the way through, I was never, you know, sipping my my champagne and going, "Oh, good for us, bully." You know, we just brought in a whole bunch of money today with our monocles and our top hats. No, it was definitely a slog. And what I would recommend to anyone out there trying to pursue a Kickstarter campaign is you got to put in the work. It is a full-time job,
right?
And even when you have a full-time job, so keep that in mind. It is one of those things where, you know, early on, we had to get our core group on board. And we had a few things working against us. We had kind of a soft launch, but, you know, it's one of those things where you have to really get yourself out there and reach out to every person you know to at least give you a strong base. Did you? Here's the thing. I mean, you had like a pretty good number of backers there. I mean, it was like, what, a couple hundred, 270. I'll bring it up here. It's you had 187 backers. Okay. And that's correct. You know, for a total of 20,963, based on over a $20,000 goal. And at what point in that, what was it, a 30-day campaign? Mm-hmm. Okay, so at what point? About 39, actually. Yeah. 39. Okay, so at what point in that campaign did you start feeling like, hey, maybe this is actually going to happen? Probably day 30, maybe. It really. I mean, that's the thing, though. Is like we got to, I think, about 50% with about 2 weeks left, maybe. Mm-hmm. I mean, so keep in mind. I mean, a lot of the big numbers were actually from individual donors. Right. So it's there's a bit of a it's a tale of two cities, my friend. Mm-hmm. You know, on one end you have a lot of backers who are throwing in like $5, $10, right, $15. Then you get these big fish who come along, and sometimes you have to talk to these people in person. You can't just go, oh, Mr. Moneybags will find my project and he'll dump a whole bunch of money on it. No, usually how it works out is you call that one person in your life. You're like, he was always a great supporter of me. He might want to, give a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And maybe I can incentivize him with, some of, the incentives we have, like an associate producer thing or something like that. And that's how you get some of your big dollars. So these, I'm looking at your history here. You have two backers of $2,500 or more. Is this who we're talking about? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And that kind of stuff is really the meat and potatoes of getting this thing done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every Kickstarter is different, though, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that's like comprehensively the only way it works. That's just the way ours worked, and I've only done it once.
Well, one thing I did, because you do have a pretty good number of people who contributed less than that, obviously. And one thing I recently heard about Kickstarter, and I don't know whether this is true, but your experience seems to bear it out, which is that you got chosen as a staff pick, right?
That's correct.
All right. And what I've heard is that when you have a lot of backers, you're much more likely, even if they're only $5 each, you're much more likely to get chosen as a staff pick, which obviously can push you over the line, I mean, do you think that's what happened?
Well, it does. It gives you a bump. I wouldn't say it's the only. I mean, I would actually. I haven't looked into this, but I'd love to see the numbers on how many staff picks that don't fund, because I wouldn't say that necessarily was like, oh, hooray, confetti, we're done. It was like we had a couple good days that were like really, really awesome, and then it was back to work. So, I don't know. I know it helped, and I don't even know how we got selected. I have to be honest.
Really, was that just a surprise to you? Just one day you said, "Hey."
Yeah, it was like, we're about 2/3 into our campaign, and suddenly I get an email that says you've been picked as a Kickstarter staff pick. Oh, hooray!
And I wonder how many backers. I wonder how many backers you'd had by that point. I wonder if that was part of one of the reasons you were chosen. If you'd had quite a few by then.
It was probably part of it. I think also what helps is that we started to instruct some of our backers to make sure that they searched through Kickstarter itself to get those before they put in their backing. I think that might have helped because it helped. It's all about metrics here, man.
Oh wait, you're saying so search for your project using the Kickstarter search engine so that Kickstarter knows you're looking for it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's got to be a part of it. It all comes back to control delete. It's like it's all about the machine.
Right,
man.
exactly.
It's about metrics. They don't see where your support's coming from if it's just coming from Facebook or it's. I mean, they do see it coming from Facebook, but they may not see like how it benefits them or how where the numbers are coming from unless somebody goes, oh,
right.
I want to browse science fiction. Oh, there's Control-Alt-Delete. I mean, I don't know.
Well, Kickstarter does not make it easy.
I make movies. I don't know how these things work.
They don't make it easy to get numbers on projects. I've been trying to, parse it a little bit. And what I did find, and I don't even know if I don't have a background in mathematics at all, but doing the best I can. But it seems like on average.
You, me, and both.
Yeah, right.
You and me both, brother.
But it looks like roughly there's about 30 film projects a day that end within a 24-hour period. And what I've seen in the last couple of weeks is that roughly a third of those get funded, but that if you're featured staff pick, that roughly 70% of those get funded. So,
okay.
But again, this isn't, these could be complete aberrations. I was an English major, So
yeah, I'm like a fine arts, major too.
Yeah.
So there you go. We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I guess I think a lot of it. They want to support winners, right? I mean, that's where they get their money. They don't get money unless you fund. So, I think it's a great system. I'm not trying to, make it
as opposed to Indiegogo, which I understand takes 9% if you don't fund. Well, you don't have to fund it 100% Indiegogo, but they take a 100%.
You get whatever you raise.
Right.
Indiegogo is how I understand it. We decided to forego the larger take from the crowdfunding and try to use the all or nothing kind of method.
That was going to be my question, why you chose Kickstarter over other options. That's why?
Yeah, I mean, part of it also is, there's a lot more brand recognition with Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's what I hear a lot.
Here's the thing. I think what we learned a lot through the process of doing Kickstarter, and I think the greatest strength of Kickstarter, and anyone who is out there and they're considering doing this, keep this in mind. The greatest strength of Kickstarter is marketing, and it's you selling yourself and selling your film. And if you are going into it with that in mind, then I think you'll be successful no matter what you do, because you're going to learn a lot about your film and you're going to get the word out about it as well. You're going to have a reason to tell people about it. And before it's made, of course. Then you should be shouting from the mountains, here's my film, come and watch it. Any good filmmaker should. But, it's as a fundraising platform, I think it's you can't go into it with just that in mind. I think that's a easy flaw that a lot of people could, kind of work under, and I think you would find yourself, really struggling if you just go, okay, set up my page, and put a great video and wait for the money to roll in.
Just like anything else on the internet, just put it out there and expect people to come. It's not 1999 anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's so true, and I think that's a big part of the internet culture that you need to recognize is that yes, it's a storefront, but that's it. You got to get people. You got to do the work to get people to go through the door.
Right.
And even if they go through the door, they might just browse and walk out.
Right. Most of them will.
Yeah.
So how did you? How long did it take you to prep for? What did you do in preparation for the campaign? I know you created a very nice looking, very simple video, but it was very professional looking. I looked at your pitch.
Yes. Actually, we hired a freelance videographer to put together our video, which was, I think, really, really helpful. And sorry, I don't have his name right in front of me, but he was a big, I think that was kind of like, we basically spent 2 to 3 months preparing just for the Kickstarter.
So what were some of the tasks? What were the tasks for preparing?
Well, the big part was we needed to craft a video that we thought would grab people, would sell honestly what we were trying to accomplish, and look professional, because hey, we're here to tell you we're making a movie. We can't have a crappy video telling you that we're making a movie. It just doesn't compute,
Right.
So that was foremost in our minds. We looked at a lot of different campaigns that were successful and kind of modeled ours after it in terms of what incentives we offered, how much, what the amounts were for each incentive, and all those different aspects of it. And then a lot of it was kind of what we learned while we're in the midst of it, honestly. But those were kind of the pre-steps. I mean, it's getting a great video and getting the right balance with your page.
So this was you and your business partner at Nighthawks.
Nighthawks Entertainment. Yeah, Baruch Cox.
Right.
Yeah, I mean he's my partner in crime. If it's me or if it's him, it's kind of both of us. It's we're butching Sundance here. Just trying to carve out our little territory, making fun entertainment. I mean that's really chief among all of our ambitions is just making good stuff that that people like us will enjoy.
So do you think the 20,000 is gonna be the budget for the film, or is it gonna be?
No. Actually, that's just a portion of the budget. We've cobbled together the budget from many different sources. We have some independent investment who are actual investors, and they will get a return on the film. And there's kind of like we had to put some of our own skin into the game as well. And then there's the Kickstarter. So putting all that together, we still haven't raised all of it, but we're aiming towards 100,000.
Okay.
And it's kind of pretty standard for what is a SAG ultra low budget. What do they call them? Micro budget feature is what we're trying to accomplish here. And I think it's because it's a first time director, me, and a high concept genre film. I think we can expect it to garner some success on that low budget. It's something that really is kind of a grassroots do it yourself type film.
Are you thinking of going on the festival circuit with it, or are you thinking of going direct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Baruch and I both have, through, I produced a feature before this that was actually only made for $40,000. It was very, very small. And, through that experience and going to Slam Dance with that film, it was, we fostered a lot of relationships in the festival community, and we aim to leverage those to get this film seen by as many people as possible. That's really the goal. We want our movie seen, and hopefully you'll get some distribution of some form. And obviously, you have to you're focusing less on marketing it now than you are on making it. I'm sure you'll be thinking a lot about more of that next year. But it's a little bit of both, and that's why you need a team. You need a good core group of people working with you, so you can assemble all these pieces properly. It's a team effort, and we're definitely, it's the biggest project I've ever attempted, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be huge. So you have you've got your video. You press go on your campaign, your Kickstarter campaign. Yeah. You have a baby. That's
you have a baby. After the baby, then what do you do? I mean, do you go do you just email everybody you know, or have you been kind of priming them all this time, or like where do you go with this?
Well, we had a few hang-ups and challenges, and this is something important also, just specifically to Kickstarter. I don't know how it works at Indiegogo or the other sites, but when it comes to Kickstarter, definitely make sure you have all the ducks in a row in terms of payment accounts and all that stuff set up. Because one thing that we came across right up to the end, not up to the end, up to the the launch, was that there's a lot of new laws in place in terms of anonymous donations, and this kind of comes under the whole Homeland Security Department type thing. So there's a lot of clearances that have to happen for you to set up that account that all your crowdfunded money goes into. So definitely a pro tip for you folks. Don't tell everybody when the launch is until it's launched.
So did you have to work with a lawyer for this, or did you just kind of work through it?
No. It's not. Maybe I'm overselling it, but it's one of those things where it's like you submit to Amazon Payments is the vendor that Kickstarter uses all of your account information, so they know where to send the money to. And it's not like boom, green light, you're done. It actually takes about a week for it to clear sometimes. They come up with different red flags. I mean, they don't like P.O. box addresses for obvious reasons. So, anyway, that's a little bit of minutia there, but
no, it's important stuff. It's the stuff you never hear. It's the stuff you never hear about. All you ever hear is the end result, and yay, isn't it easy? Aren't we lucky? Yeah. I mean, we feel incredibly lucky, and we're incredibly indebted to all of our backers. I mean, there's nothing like the high of seeing people step up that you haven't seen in years. People you knew in high school, people you knew in elementary school. My best friend from elementary school was our backer number one. Oh, wow.
And I tell you, there's nothing more exciting than reconnecting with somebody. Yeah. Andrew Ronstadt out there. I mean,
that's awesome.
He was such a, close friend of mine then, and, he's just, life happens. You don't get to see each other, for gosh, like a decade.
Yeah.
And then it all, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it has a way of bringing together all these people from your life, different parts of your life all together, who suddenly are like, hey, I remembered you. I want to help you do something special. And that was the greatest part of the whole process for sure.
That's just great. And actually, I never really thought about it before, but it's actually pretty obvious that something like crowdfunding and Kickstarter and Indiegogo could never have happened without the proliferation of social media like Facebook and Twitter. There's no way you could have reached all these people.
Yeah. It really is a key part of it, and that's why I think it's a full-time job. Is you gotta be working against algorithms here too, because Facebook is always updating their algorithms, and they're making it so, and I think rightfully so, they're making it harder for people to just spam everybody they know.
Yeah.
Let's face it, folks. If you're doing a Kickstarter, you're spamming people.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to hawk your stuff, and
right.
it feels a little dirty. I'm not gonna lie. But I think what you gotta do, and this is important, is when you're selling a Kickstarter, you're not selling the movie. You're not selling, hey, folks, I'm making a movie about robots and people in a data center. You're selling yourself. You're selling your story. And my story was, hey, I've never done this before. I'm trying to make a feature film. I've done filmmaking before. It's not the first time I picked up a camera, but hey, I'm kind of doing something a little crazy. You want to go on this journey with me?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you're bringing. It's what we were talking before about bringing people together. It's a participatory thing.
Absolutely, and that is the beauty of Kickstarter. I want to make sure I got to get some hard facts in there, but I also got to tell you, it is an exciting and beautiful thing to suddenly see, hey, my, French teacher from middle school, is stepping up and giving me $25. And that's the $25 that just is like, wow.
So honestly, did you go on Facebook and then start looking up people that you hadn't talked to in forever, and then hope that they might pick them up in your feid
I actually wrote a very, kind of just a sincere email. I basically every email address, and it's weird because on one end I'm broadcasting. I'm taking almost every email address in my address book.
Right.
Every person I've ever exchanged an email with and including them. but also thinking about it and really crafting the email in a way that it's not just like, give me money, you know.
Right.
It's, you know, you really have to kind of think about it and go, okay, you know, I'm about to ask people to, you know, kind of pitch in on something. How do I communicate, you know, in the sincerest form what this means to me and what I'm trying to accomplish without it being long, wordy, and awkward.
Yeah, and not making it feel like it's all about you, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
that you're asking for charity or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like you always got to give people the option to say no. That's one thing. Actually, Blake Robbins has taught me, and he's a mentor of mine too, by the way, actor and producer of our film. But yeah, I mean, that's really, I think, important to keep in mind. You know, you can't just expect people to just throw things at you.
Right.
But yeah, it did help that I did have a baby.
Yeah, I know. Talking about great PR.
I had the best lead in the business.
Perfect timing.
Oh yeah, it was a big, you know, that was a big help. And you know, you got to think about it. It's like, okay, how do I do this tactfully so it's not just like, oh, I'm having a baby. By the way, give me money.
Right.
You know, again, you got to think about it. How am I telling a story here?
Just think of it as in lieu of a baby shower. You know, you can just.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of just tucked it in at the end. I have to be honest. I was a little, you know, kind of clever with it, but it was, you know, I basically had my very, you know, sincere note of, you know, help, and then at the end, P.S. By the way, if you find any typos, because I have a new baby picture. There you go.
How can you turn that down? I mean, my God.
Yeah. You got to throw everything at it.
Absolutely.
You know, and that was, I don't know. It was kind of like after I'd written them, I was like, should I do this? Well, it will help.
Of course it will.
Yeah.
Of course it will. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Can't leave your quarterback on the bench. You know?
That's right.
Not an option.
So is there anything that you would there anything you would do differently next time? Or would you do it all exactly the same way?
Well,
I mean, not including having another baby. I mean, that's all a separate issue. But
I would recommend everyone out there, you know, whether you're attached or not, have a baby, and it will help you. No,
great advice.
No. But I think a part of that is you got to find what your story is. In my story, it was I'm a new dad and I'm trying to make a feature film. How crazy is that? You want to help? So that was my story. I mean, that's not everybody's story, and it shouldn't be everybody's story.
Right.
But you got to find what your story is, that you're to get your core group. This isn't strangers on the internet. This is the family of people that you've known throughout your life that are going to take this journey with you. And that's important. That's important that you communicate to those people, you reach them. I find email or phone calls is the best way. Social media is designed only to get your word to the people that would be somewhat receptive to it.
Right.
It's easy to filter. So, you know, we live in a scrolling culture, you know.
Right.
You can't expect you to put a post into the waterfall that is Twitter or Facebook and have everybody see it. So an email, I feel, or a phone call are the strongest methods. But sorry, I think I lost track of what I was saying.
That's all right, because I did too. Not only that, but I just heard my family come through the door, so I'm already distracted. But no, but I'm just
man, what
speaking. Yeah, I know, dads of young children. I know, but
yeah.
So, I guess I asked you, what would you do differently if you had, you know, if you were.
Oh yeah, so I would definitely. I think we had a soft launch, and that was kind of it was our circumstances. We had to run with it. We had to go with it. You know, we were, you know, a baby showed up, you know, immediately when we wanted to launch, and you know, I couldn't be expected to suddenly just drop everything I was doing and you know, do Kickstarter.
Right.
when suddenly this new life is in my life. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. You can't. That would be wrong.
Yeah.
Period. So, you know, we had a bit of a soft launch. I don't think it was avoidable, but I think kind of planning for that and planning for the type of things like that, you know, that clearance period with your payments account. I think having a stronger launch and having, you know, doing all that groundwork ahead of time with the emails and everything, so that you come out of the gates with like a few thousand under your belt.
Right.
Now you're talking. I mean, it doesn't have to be a few thousand. It depends on how much you're trying to raise.
Sure.
You know, you should try to get, a big chunk, like 25%, in that first week. We've been able to do so.
Do you feel like you hit do you feel like you hit the sweet spot as far as what amount to ask? For what the goal was for the campaign?
I mean, it's what we needed, but I think we would have had an easier time if we went for 10, honestly. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is that, like, once you're funded, then everything else is gravy.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's part of Kickstarter specifically, that it's all or nothing. So right. I do think that sometimes it's a balancing act, and I don't know if I do a whole lot different. I did learn a lot of things. I definitely learned to change the perspective on what Kickstarter is, because I definitely went into it going like, oh, it's going to be free money, it's going to be easy street. Mm-hmm. Well, not so much. And thankfully, I had.
You didn't expect it to be quite so much work to keep pumping it toward the end there, or?
Yeah, I mean, it really was. There was three of us. There was me, there was Blake, and there was Baruch, and the three of us had to be working full time to get what we got. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think if we had a few extra hands on deck, maybe it would have been easier. But then again, who knows? Maybe that would have detracted from it. Maybe it would have diluted the message.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good point.
So, I mean, it's hard to really base a lot of judgment on one experience, but it definitely was something I felt. You have to do it to really understand it. And I learned a lot more when I was in the thick of it than beforehand.
Right.
You can read a ton on the subject before you actually do it. You don't really know.
Yeah, right. This has been really interesting. I really appreciate it. And actually, I'd love to check in with you again once you start shooting, or once you've been shooting for, or maybe when you wrap or something, we could do a little session on that.
Yeah, no, I'd love to definitely plug my movie, because that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe by then we'll have an audience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'm actually also looking forward to the follow-up with the Dollar Baby.
Definitely.
Project. That's something I really would love to talk about.
Yeah.
And I encourage a lot of young filmmakers to seek it out.
Well, I can talk about this in the other session, but my brief experience with it in the 80s was that I wrote a play that I was going to shoot on videotape based on the Ballad of the Flexible Bullet. And
oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I totally went the wrong way because I didn't know about the Dollar Baby program yet, and I sent an email. I mean, not an email. We didn't have email then. I sent a letter to, I guess it was to his agent. I can't remember now, but I got, within a very short time, I got a cease and desist letter. It scared the hell out of me. So
oh man,
I didn't do a thing with it.
That's tricky, and I mean, that's a bit of a bummer too.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely something where, it constantly changes though, because the more people know about it, the more it becomes a regular process. Mm-hmm. I know we're going to get into this on the next podcast, so I'll just save it there. But
okay.
It is definitely, I do recommend it, but it is something where you got to be ready to do what's needed to do to get the rights and everything.
Right.
It's a journey.
Got to play by the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's weird with these things. Sometimes you can do something, and if you get them at the right moment, they might be in a mood where they're
I don't think
King
ever saw my letter. I mean, I think it just went straight to his lawyer, and that was that. Whoever his lawyer was at the time. Yeah,
that's true. Well, and that's their job, is to protect his IP.
No, of course,
so I guess.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again. This was really great, and like I said, we'll follow up again, and I'll talk to you again soon about the Dollar Baby stuff.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, I had a wonderful time chatting with you, and I look forward to next time. And anytime you want me on the show, I'm happy to come aboard and
awesome.
Phone it in.
Thanks, and congratulations again on both of your new arrivals.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. We can talk about the baby more next time too.
Yeah, okay, we'll do a special podcast on babies. Okay.
Right.
Thanks a lot, James.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye. And so there you have it, my interview with James Burgess Cox, and congratulations again to him for his new baby and for his successful Kickstarter campaign. We'll be checking up on him again in a few episodes when we do our Dollar Baby Roundtable. Till next time.
Visit anywherebuthollywood.com and join the community. Fill out a profile, Share samples of your work. Search for collaborators by skill or location. Anywherebuthollywood.com, empowering the independent filmmaker.